Hello and welcome. In this video, we will explore the difference between real and acquired conscience, a distinction that is crucial if you want to break away from your culturally conditioned ego and find what is truly authentic within yourself. In the fourth way system, the concept of acquired conscience refers to the artificial moral framework that is absorbed from external sources, such as cultural norms, societal expectations, religious doctrines, familial conditioning, and peer influence. This form of conscience is often mechanical and automatic, shaped by the external world rather than arising from one's authentic inner being. It serves a practical function in organizing human behavior within the confines of societal structures. But from the perspective of inner development, it is limited and obstructive. The fourth way tradition, founded by Gurdjieff and expanded by several of his students, such as P.D. Ouspensky, is a path of spiritual development designed to awaken individuals from mechanical, unconscious living, of which acquired conscience is a part. Unlike other spiritual paths that rely on withdrawal from the world, the fourth way teaches that spiritual growth can occur within ordinary life through conscious effort and inner work. This path emphasizes, among other things, self-observation and the unification of one's fragmented self. Acquired conscience serves as a framework shaped by the external conditions and influences of one's upbringing and society. It operates as a collective agreement that defines acceptable behavior within a particular group or culture, enabling cohesion and order. However, this type of conscience is often based on arbitrary norms rather than universal truths. It reflects the moral landscape of the time and place in which one lives, resulting in inconsistencies and contradictions when compared across different societies or historical periods. For instance, actions deemed virtuous in one culture may be condemned in another, highlighting the limitations of acquired conscience as a reliable guide for inner growth or spiritual alignment. Real conscience, on the other hand, exists beyond the realm of societal constructs and conditioned morality. It emerges through the transformative work of developing self-awareness and engaging with the higher centers of human experience. Unlike acquired conscience, which is externally imposed and often reactive, real conscience arises spontaneously as one becomes attuned to a deeper, universal sense of rightness. It is not bound by the shifting values of society, but rooted in timeless truths that resonate across all contexts. This inner moral compass, free from distortion, enables one to act not out of fear or adherence to rules, but out of a genuine alignment with higher knowledge and understanding. Arbitrary moral rules stemming from the ego is one of the big vices that have plagued humanity since the very beginning, and this dysfunctional state is becoming much more apparent in our modern world with its unprecedented interconnectedness. This is something that we, as we are waking up as a collective, need to transcend. Many of the most well-known figures within the fourth way tradition had a slightly elitist view and a pessimistic outlook on the possibility of a significant part of humanity transcending the mechanical, sleeping state of the ego that acquired conscience stems from. However, Gurdjieff and others could not foresee the events that are taking place on the planet now, and ideas such as these can no longer primarily be aimed at a small group of extraordinary individuals with the drive and means to dedicate most of their lives to spiritual and self-developmental pursuits. Therefore, it's necessary to expand these ideas and adjust them to the special times that we are living in. It's at the same time important to emphasize that we have not just acquired many rules and morals that have nothing to do with real conscience. There are also many aspects of real conscience that are downplayed or downright forgotten in our cultures today. The fourth way emphasizes that the journey from acquired to real conscience requires conscious effort and intentional self-examination. Without questioning the moral frameworks we inherit, we remain trapped in mechanical patterns that fail to reflect our true nature. Real conscience, as taught in the fourth way, offers a path toward authenticity and universal harmony, allowing one to act in ways that align with a higher purpose rather than the fragmented and transient dictates of cultural morality. This shift represents a profound reorientation of one's inner life, moving from the superficial to the essential, from conditioned behavior to true being. To understand the relationship between acquired and real conscience, it is essential to consider the Fourth Way's teachings on the nature of human mechanicalness. The Fourth Way teachings emphasize that human beings, in their ordinary state, are fragmented and operate largely by automatic reactions dictated by programming from their upbringing and surroundings. Acquired conscience is an extension of this mechanicalness. It is a system of morality absorbed passively, without conscious choice or deeper understanding. The Fourth Way underscores that acquired conscience, while necessary for societal cohesion, often perpetuates illusions. For example, it can create an internal conflict where one feels guilt or shame for acting against societal norms, even when those norms are misaligned with deeper truths. This guilt or shame may not reflect any real understanding of right or wrong, but instead indicates a conditioned response, a fear of judgment or punishment. As long as we don't question the rules and values that we're taught, or the claims they are based on, we believe them. This is an important lens to view whatever culture you are living in through. Understanding this distinction between real and acquired conscience will help you to see your culture in a clearer light, and to understand why there is so much apparent arbitrariness when it comes to the values that guide the societies we live in. Real conscience, on the other hand, arises when one begins to observe oneself and engage in the process of inner work. Through self-observation, you become aware of your mechanical reactions, inherited biases, and the inner contradictions that define ordinary existence. This process reveals the extent to which acquired conscience governs your actions and thoughts. Only by becoming conscious of these influences can you begin to transcend them. We have a whole video on self-observation. There will be a link to it at the end screen. The development of real conscience is closely linked to the Fourth Way's unification of one's fragmented self. In the ordinary state, a person is divided into multiple I's, each representing different desires, fears, and influences. These I's often conflict with one another, creating inner chaos. Acquired conscience reflects this fragmentation. It is composed of moral judgments that are inconsistent and influenced by different I's at different times. For example, one part of you might prioritize social approval, while another might rebel against authority, leading to contradictory impulses. We have a whole video on inner unity within the Fourth Way, and there will be a link to it at the end screen. According to the Fourth Way teachings, as this unification progresses, you gain access to higher centers of consciousness, where real conscience resides. This conscience is not a collection of rules or judgments, but a direct perception of what is right and necessary in any given moment, free from the distortions of ego and societal conditioning. The higher centers refer to levels of human consciousness beyond ordinary perception and mechanical functioning. Gurdjieff and Ouspensky taught that humans possess 7 centers of awareness, with the 4 lower centers being the primary modes of operation in our ordinary state. These include the intellectual center, which governs reasoning and thought, the emotional center, responsible for feelings and moods, the moving center, which controls physical actions and habits, and the instinctive center, which manages basic survival functions such as breathing and digestion. These lower centers, while necessary, operate mechanically, often in a fragmented and reactive way, causing inner disharmony and preventing access to higher understanding. The higher centers, however, represent latent levels of consciousness always functioning, but generally inaccessible to those in an ordinary, unconscious state. The higher emotional center transcends reactive, fleeting feelings and perceives universal emotions such as love, compassion, joy, and a deep sense of truth. It is here that real conscience emerges as a direct awareness of what is right and necessary, free from egoic distortions or societal conditioning. In contrast to the higher emotional center, the higher intellectual center operates as a source of direct, instantaneous knowledge. This is not intellectual analysis or logical deduction, but a pure, immediate form of understanding, often described as direct knowing or insight. Together, these centers reflect a deeper, more objective level of human potential, free from the limitations of fragmented and conditioned thought. The seventh center, according to the fourth way, acts as a bridge between the lower and higher centers. The lower centers form a barrier to these higher levels of awareness due to their noise, distractions, and automatic nature. We have a whole video that describes the lower centers and their functioning in detail, and there will be a link to it at the end screen. When these higher centers are accessed, one begins to experience life in a profoundly different way, grounded in authenticity, inner peace, and a deep connection to objective truth. This transformation marks the transition from the mechanical, reactive functioning of acquired conscience to the living reality of real conscience, which arises naturally as a result of contact with higher emotional and intellectual states. In this way, the higher centers serve as the source of real conscience and universal understanding, offering a path toward spiritual awakening and inner harmony. All of this is, of course, very abstract, and, as with so many aspects of the human experience, and especially awakening, the discussion of higher centers is an attempt at speaking about something that can never be fully captured with language. What can be said is that, as you wake up to who you are, you will come into contact with higher faculties within yourself, whether you choose to categorize them as centers or not. Maybe this is the best way of describing them, but it's not the only useful model of our internal reality. Real conscience, as opposed to acquired conscience, is connected to the seventh center and serves as a bridge between the lower and higher aspects of oneself, enabling you to act in alignment with your true nature rather than being driven by external pressures or inner fragmentation. Developing real conscience requires courage and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about yourself and the world. This is why the fourth way often speaks of intentional suffering, the conscious acceptance of the pain that comes with facing reality and letting go of illusions. An important teaching within the fourth way tradition is the idea that acquired conscience must eventually be transcended, but not prematurely discarded. Acquired conscience plays a stabilizing role in the early stages of inner work, providing a framework within which one can function. However, as you progress, it becomes essential to question and outgrow this framework. This is not a rejection of morality, but a movement toward a more profound, authentic morality that arises from real conscience. If you pay attention here, you can see that this is a somewhat different way of approaching morality, and in general, our interaction with the world. It asks us, instead of blindly following because we are bad people otherwise, to be as conscious and honest with ourselves as possible when it comes to our ability to make sound judgments. It doesn't place any absolute demand on us to follow rules, but instead asks us to take the question of whether we are mature enough to break the rules seriously. Gurdjieff often warned against mistaking acquired conscience for real conscience. He noted that people frequently justify their actions based on societal norms or personal preferences, believing they are acting morally when they are actually perpetuating their own mechanicalness. This self-deception is one of the greatest obstacles to inner development. True morality, he taught, can only emerge from a state of consciousness that is free from the illusions of the ego and the influences of external conditioning. In conclusion, acquired conscience is a necessary but ultimately limited aspect of our quote-unquote normal interactions with the world. It provides a foundation for functioning within society, but often perpetuates mechanicality and illusion. Real conscience, on the other hand, is a higher state of awareness that arises from inner work. It reflects an authentic, universal understanding of right and wrong, untainted by cultural or personal biases. The journey from acquired to real conscience is central to the fourth way, requiring rigorous self-observation, intentional suffering, and a commitment to awakening the higher centers of being. This process leads to a more integrated, authentic, and morally responsible way of living in alignment with the deeper truths of existence. As with many aspects of the fourth way, and in general aspects of awakening, you are asked to adopt a more conscious relationship with yourself. You need to know yourself enough to know when it's wise to break the rules and when it's wise to follow them. When attempting to discern this, it's wise to keep the following in mind. Acquired conscience operates within the realm of ordinary thoughts and emotions, which are often reactive, fear-based, and tied to egoic concerns. Real conscience, however, perceives reality directly and responds with love, compassion, and a sense of universal responsibility. It's important to realize clearly that without the development of real conscience, chaos will be the only result of going against the norms. Therefore, in the end, knowing the difference between real and acquired conscience is very useful, as your awakening requires you to make more and more autonomous decisions grounded in presence and true self-awareness. Ultimately, it's about letting go of our limited ego self completely and allowing the perfect infinite consciousness that we are all part of and connected with to shine through all of our decisions, words, and actions. You've now reached the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for your time.